Oh, well, so
Before
yeah.
we do this,
I don't want to redo it now. We had this whole thing going on, and it was a good
And
conversation,
just keep rolling.
and then some. Yeah, well, I mean, there's not much we could do now. We had this whole conversation.
we did.
Um, I
We
did
had
a
a good
triple backflip.
intro.
Um,
Birdie did
so all
a
right, yeah,
handstand and he did the
yeah,
split.
yeah. It was insane. He did the splits. Well, he held a banana in his mouth. Okay, let's just pretend like
Yeah,
none
we're
of
on.
this happened. Yeah. So wait a minute. So in post production, will they see this or no? Like
I have no
the failed
idea.
intro? Who cares? Let's
They
do everything
might
again. Hey guys,
still.
welcome, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. I of course. See, I don't even have the same feeling behind it anymore. Another episode of Nightmare Road. I of course am your host Decon here with a very, very, just a very.
Ash the Oracle. And then I am here with our very own fabulous ladies man. Man, the first one was so good. CIA agent,
Birdie.
son of a bee.
So all right. So where the hell were we last time? Okay, I was saying.
I don't even know.
Yeah, today's episode is on dark conspiracies. So yeah, dark conspiracies. You know, a lot of conspiracies are actually really dark. But here, before we start that, have you guys ever done that thing where you are either driving or you're in the shower, and it's not that. Stop it. You're driving or you're in the shower, and then you start having imaginary arguments with people. It's like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Yes.
like, oh man, like I'm gonna what? I have such low self-esteem that in the imaginary arguments in my head, I lose, and I'm always like, you know what? Yeah, I see your point. I guess I was wrong.
That's really bad because
I
in the
know.
arguments I have in my head, I win. And then when I go to have the argument, I'm like, yeah, never mind.
Mine always show up right before I start to go to sleep, like actual sleep. Like I'm sleeping and I'm like finally going to sleep, and my brain goes, "Hey, are you
I'm going
sleeping?"
to F
I'm
this
like, "I'm
person up.
trying," and my brain goes, "How would you solve world hunger?" And I'm like, "Well, first I'm like, God," and then I'm up for another hour because my brain's just going. I'm like, "Shut up, shut up, shut up."
Jeez.
Oh,
And then I
Birdie.
start passing out again, and my brain's like, "Hey, remember this song from the '80s?" I'm like, "Oh God, just shut up."
Yeah, damn. I wish I had those issues.
No,
I
I
wish
haven't
it
had
was
usually,
a
that in
song from
years,
the
though.
80s for me, though, because normally for me, I get stuck watching The Wiggles a lot and Doggyland, so it's something from one of those. And it sucks. So throw an 80s
yeah,
song my way.
yeah, in '87. So yeah, so dark, dark conspiracies, and most conspiracies are pretty dark. We're gonna talk about I don't know how many you guys got. I got a lot of them in my pocket. Let me see. Yeah, I got a lot of them in my pocket. So let's see. Who remembers? I don't know if chat's gonna respond to me or they're just gonna ignore me. But who
I think they
remembers
will.
when Princess that who remembers when Princess Diana died?
What year was
Okay, if you don't remember this, though, we got problems. And you probably shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, I'm gonna say one thing,
Here we go.
that? I mean, I
and I want to
remember
be
when it
clear.
happened. I don't remember what year.
Wait a minute, Dirty Birdie. This is important. If you're watching and you have puffy nipples, turn this off right now. Unsubscribe, and don't you ever, ever come back. Get your stuff and get out of here, all three of you. We don't want you here. Anyway,
I really feel bad for
so
people with puffy nipples.
I don't. It's the reason why I'm telling them to leave. So, so anyway, yeah. Let's see. That was what year was that? Damn, I don't remember what year it was, but who remembers the story, right? She was running away from the paparazzi, right? The paparazzi was chasing her, and then her driver was intoxicated with prescription pills. Oh yeah, there you go, with prescription pills in his system, and he hit a pole, and they died. She died in the emergency room, I believe, and her boyfriend died instantly.
97.
Did
What?
97?
Mm-hmm.
Either she died in a hospital on her way to the hospital, but it was pretty bad.
Deacon, we have a really, really important question right now, though, and I
Yeah.
think it needs to be addressed. I put it on the
Okay.
screen for you.
What is your obsession with puffy nipple? You know what? It's one of those things where I don't think it's like if let's say that somebody out there was very concerned with, the extinction of tigers, or the extinction of the black rhinoceros, and they're always talking about it because it's something that's important, something that, like, did you guys know that the black rhinoceros, or is it the white rhinoceros, is now considered extinct? There's only two living, and they're female, I believe, in a zoo. After that, there's none left. If somebody were to say that all the time, like, damn, I feel bad for those rhinoceros, would you be like, where's your obsession with rhino? No, it's an important thing that needs to be addressed. And this
What
is
does
something
this
that I
have
will
to
not
do with
stand for.
nipples?
Well, it's an example, okay? I'm just using this as an example. It's important.
Okay.
If you have, let me just tell you this. If your car breaks down in the middle of the road and it's smoking and everything, and you have puffy nipples, your wife, your girlfriend, your woman is not going to say, hey, can you look at that? She's going to flag down a real man to look at the car. So anyway, let's continue. So the conspiracy is that...
Retire because of puffy nipples.
Yeah. I said it last week too. Like, if somebody were to break into your house, she's not going to wake you up with your puffy nipples. She's going to go get the neighbor, the real man. Anyway, so yeah, so the conspiracy is that there's actually, there's so many surrounding the Princess Diana thing. One of them is that because she was marrying somebody outside of whom they, well, she was married to somebody already in the family, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but the royal family is very incestuous. Anyway, so she was married to somebody that they appointed to. I'm serious. Just like right now, what's the guy that's married to that one chick?
Everybody knows this, but Meghan Markle.
But I'm gonna say it. Yes. So everybody's like, oh, they're racist, and the reason why they don't like her is because of the color of her skin. They're cousins, right? Like, if you look up her family, it's like they're related. They just have British accents. They're actually a Shribby from Arkansas. Anyway, so the whole thing is that she was seeing somebody else who wasn't of the royal family, and they were like, this can't happen. If she marries this individual, if she leaves this person and she marries this individual, the whole dynasty is going to slowly begin to crumble. So what do? Let's kill her. So that's one of the conspiracies, right? Another, because Roland, damn it, that it was an assassination, that it wasn't an accident. The other conspiracy, a little bit darker, okay? The darker conspiracy is that her name is Diana, and Diana is a name that originates through the mythical figure or legendary figure, the Lady Dionysus, who was a goddess in Greek mythology. So what they used to do is, it was a very dark, I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago with Alexander's mom, who she was a cultist, and she was a sister in the Order of Dionysus. Anyways, so they used to take a child and they would name the child Dionysus or Diana, right? And as soon as she was of a certain age, they would sacrifice her. They would sacrifice her to kind of, So everything about that accident, like not just her name, but also she died in a tunnel in France that is called the Bridge of the Soul, I believe it translates to. And that place was famous for sacrifices from certain religious groups. for
Oh,
certain
I didn't know
cults. They would they would sacrifice people in that on top of that bridge or around that bridge. So it was like a legendary sacrificial spot. So the fact that she died with her name, in that tunnel, and then she was held there, or she did not gain the medical attention immediately that she needed for her to survive, and then she died. And then they said that her driver was under the influence. Um, yes. It's the god of wine. But what is wine composed of? And remember that wine was fermented out of what? Blood. Anyway, so if you're a member of the Order of Dionysus, a lot of the blood that was actually fermented was snake blood. So they would take the blood of a snake and they would cut it, and then they would put the natural ingredient. Then it would ferment, and that's what they would get drunk off of. Anyway, so that's where the term blood drunk comes from. Anyway, so yeah, it's gross. So then they actually ran a toxicology report on the driver, and they found nothing in his system. But then they immediately published that he was heavily intoxicated and blah blah blah. And it's like, you really think that the bodyguard, no one's gonna notice somebody hopped up out of their mind, severely intoxicated, and he's dry? You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, but it's freaking Princess Diana.
Yeah,
Nobody
beloved.
would have disrespected her in that way, especially her bodyguard.
Yeah.
And the royal family was just like, fuck this bitch, let's kill her off.
I just find it really strange that somebody by the name of Diana that's supposed to be sacrificed, that's going under a bridge where people have been sacrificed.
Right?
It's sacrificed, in a way. So
basically,
what's the tie-in here? Why would they sacrifice her for what?
Well, so when you look at these kind of things, is the more powerful somebody becomes, the better the sacrifice. So why would they do it? It's just
loved her.
Yeah,
like everybody loved her, and they still do.
Unless you're the royal family, you're a bunch of reptilians.
I believe it.
Oh yeah, I believe it too. Anyway, so that's the Princess Diana one.
They didn't want her to be queen. Like, they said it millions of times. They did not want her to be queen. That's why they killed her off.
Yeah, and also, I mean, she also had nice teeth, unlike the rest of them.
So they killed her for her teeth? Is that what you're
saying? It was man, not for her teeth, but because it was a ritual. It was an occult ritual.
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't her teeth?
It might have been her teeth. I mean, they were pretty nice.
I don't know. They were pretty jealous.
Yeah, those disgusting British teeth.
Gross.
Now when I was growing up, my buddy's dad, when this happened, was telling him, because it happened, he happened to be over there when he watched this whole thing go down, and his dad was just like, this wasn't an accident. And he's like, how do you know? He's like, I worked with these people, I know these people, this wasn't an accident, this was on purpose. And
wait, your dad
he's like explain, he's like, I'm not gonna tell you anymore. So
that's it before we see Birdie in a tunnel in France.
Gonna get to you, I promise.
How are you gonna get to France? You never know.
I don't know. I'll figure it out.
What's another dark conspiracy? Have you guys ever watched what's the guy that did the Space Odyssey 2001? Kubrick. Yeah. Kubrick. Have you guys ever noticed that a lot of his films have, either Illuminati symbolism or, oh boy, here we go. I'm serious.
Hey, you know what? Our show was invited to join them via TikTok, so it's still
okay.
It's kind of in the air right now.
So, when you watch his, don't talk about that. When you watch his films, there's a lot of symbolism, especially if you're into the occult and you have, access to just not just witchcraft, like symbols and secrets. Like a lot of it is in his films. Like, for example, in who's ever seen that horrible movie Eyes Wide Shut?
Oh
I've
God, I
never
haven't
even
seen
heard of
that.
it.
Oh, in years.
So yeah, so a lot of the names that are utilized in that film are names of founders or the Bavarian Illuminati, of that group. So, for example, the man in the white hair, his name is I'm not even gonna say it because they say that if you say these names, YouTube shuts you down. So, I'm just gonna leave it very vague. So, anyway, so after Kubrick made this film, and he was using actual codes that have been uh, so, for example, to get to the secret party where they had like a giant orgy and everybody had a mask and everybody had all these things, there was a secret code that you had to say. Yeah, there was a code that you had to say in order for them to let you in this party. Otherwise, they turn you away and say, "Oh, we're closed."
Are you sure it
So
wasn't P. Diddy?
what?
Are you sure it wasn't like a P. Diddy party?
Yeah, what's interesting that you say that is just like that. So
No way.
a lot of these parties were actually utilized not just to blackmail people, but also for them to bring in, people for them to mistreat, either sexually or, just like with violence. And it was in order for them to demonstrate, their authority over people. They would hire, people that were, construction workers or anything like that, bring them into this party and abuse them in several ways. And a lot of the people that were doing this wore masks. And there was actually a great piece. Remember how we talked about the Hellfire Club and Benjamin Franklin was a member of the Hellfire Club, a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about, you know, the
Sure.
the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there is a journal in which he writes about the masquerade balls that he was in, and he says, and the type of debaucheries that we got into. He says we saw blacksmiths. He says we saw politicians. We saw, and he's going on about this experience that he had, and we all wore masks, at these parties. So you have Benjamin Franklin speaking about these type of parties, and he talks about a code that you would have to say in order to be let into this party. Otherwise, you'd be turned away, saying like, "Oh, sorry, tonight we're not." And it was the same thing in Eyes Wide Shut. He gives very specific, details on what goes on in the parties, who runs it, and all that kind of stuff. And what's interesting is that after this film was released, Kubrick was and here's the conspiracy behind it. He was murdered. They like he had already been warned. He'd been warned that they're not going to release this film, and people are telling him like you need to scrap this film and just do something else. Go do a scary movie, go do a space movie. But he had put it that he was going to release the film, and as soon as he did a test, and this is from some people that were with him, that when he did a test screening, they were all sitting there watching this movie, and there was some men in suits that were not amused at all. And he says they watched him kind of pull and kind of talk to him a little bit. And then he looked like he was terrified. Then a couple days later, dead. And after he died, the movie was released, but they had a lot of stuff cut out. The same thing with A Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange, another Kubrick film. That ties into MK Ultra. And the secret experiments and brainwashing and all of that kind of stuff. And again, for that movie, they say that after this movie was released, he was severely beaten. They say he got into a car accident, like, oh, he was blah, blah, blah. He got, but he had marks all over his body that wasn't, that doesn't coincide with a car accident. Yeah, car crash. Yeah, car crash. It's like, okay, yeah, you have a black eye, somebody punched you in the stomach, and where's the car that you totaled? Oh, no one knows where it's at, and your car that you're always driving is right there. Like, what car? So after Clockwork Orange, he received a severe beating, and then he did a remastered version of Clockwork Orange, which they took out a lot of parts in that movie. And then now you can actually get an extended version of the movie now that he's dead, with the parts they had taken out.
I'm almost interested in watching it.
Yeah, it's a messed up. Yeah, it's a classic, but it's horrible. It's a horrible
Yeah.
movie. Like when it
Huh.
comes
Brace
to
yourself. There's a lot of
violence,
yeah. I think I've only watched it once, but I was like, yeah, once is enough, and yeah, it's pretty disturbing. Clockwork
yeah,
Orange is pretty disturbing.
and then there's a scene where he's being brainwashed, right? They're prying his eyes open or making him watch things. They're trying to reform him, and that ties into the MK Ultra experiments that they were trying out. And for those of you that don't know, the government was trying mind control experiments on people that were unknowing participants. So
I mean, what's new with the government, though? They're always trying to do some shit.
yeah, that was actually big. That was declassified. That was we talked about this, Birdie, in the past. Um, right? Remember when we're talking about the code name Dr. Feelgood, but the
Oh
guy
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, MK Ultra,
that
yeah,
I
and
think I
yeah,
remember
Operation.
that episode of your guys's.
and yeah. Anybody that started speaking out about what was going on, all of a sudden they ended up in jail or detained or something like that,
In a
and
mental institution, they lost
in a
their
mental
mind.
institution. Yeah, nobody in, nobody out. But here comes Doctor Feelgood,
Yeah.
and
Of
all of a
course.
sudden, Mister who's speaking up, all of a sudden goes absolutely nuck and futz and dies soon afterwards.
Yeah, they go
Damn.
crazy and then they end up dying. Oh, and for those of you interested more about the Kubrick and all that kind of stuff, there's actually a great book. It was written by a man named Isaac Weishaupt, and it's called The Kubrick Code. So you guys check that out. He's got details. He's got like numerology, all kinds of different things that tie into his thing. So that's pretty good. So you guys should check out that. I should put a link in the description, but you guys should check that out.
Are you
Yeah, no, it's all
actually
kind
gonna
of
put a link in there?
probably not. I'll just say it because it sounds
probably
good.
not. You guys just Google it.
Yeah, just Google Kubrick Code by Isaac Weishaupt. So I
Oh
mean,
wow.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dark stuff. Like for me, one of the darkest when it comes to MK Ultra was actually there's a couple of them. They're so messed up. Like, do you remember Polybius when they were experimenting on the kids?
Yep.
You know,
Polybius.
I think
yeah.
so.
So, what was the story, Bertie? Do you remember the story?
The story was back in the 80s when arcades were fairly a big deal. They're starting to get bigger. That
Arcades are so cool.
this arcade game named Polybius just showed up in random cities around the U.S. and I guess it had a lot of random puzzle type game or something like that. And these kids are playing it, and some of the kids are like really good at it. Some of the kids aren't really bad at it or something like that. But the kids that are good with it, there's these strange men in suits that start coming around and we're like, "You look thirsty. Have some water."
Yeah.
And they, of course, like they're jamming. So, and the little Dixie cups.
Mm-hmm.
They drink that and they keep playing. And then eventually the Polybius video game cabinet machine just disappeared. It was gone. But some of these kids that were playing with it started having severe nightmares, really agitated, like just panic attacks. Some kids were claiming like that they have to go back to the arcade to play it. They were like totally driven to play it. And there was one story where they were getting ready to shut down for the night, and some guy, and he's in a black suit and tie with the hat, comes in. He's like, I got to service the machine before you shut down. The guy's like, okay, you got 10 minutes. And all he did was like walk up to it, pop like a little cabinet open, do something, shut it, and then walk out. He's like, aren't you, the guy who's running the store is like, aren't you going to collect the money? He's like, you don't need the money. And he just leaves.
It leaves, takes the takes the actual like what would you call it, the memory bank, whatever the hell it is.
I mean, in the
Just
80s, like the memory bank had to be like this big, but
Yeah, I was gonna say
apparently
it's
all
a
he did
hell
was
of a
like
lot bigger than that.
he walked behind the machine and he said
unless you're the
he
government.
popped open a little thing, put in like a little thumb drive, popped it out after a while, and just and left. And the guy's like, "Don't you want the money from the machine?" And he's like, "I don't
Oh
need it,"
boy.
and walked out.
Yeah, and you know what?
What?
So the thing is that also you also have things like the kids. Whenever a certain word was said, the kids were just like walk into the kitchen and pour themselves some milk, and like, and then it was like, okay, whatever. Like, so how was the blah 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 today? And the kid walks up, he just drank milk, walks up, and then pours himself a glass of milk and then drinks it.
What?
And then yeah, it was like, and a lot of kids were doing this. They just walk up. Even kids that were that knew they were lactose intolerant would walk up and just drink. It was like a form of mind
Ugh,
control, and
gross.
so well, yeah. So MK Ultra, it wasn't just the Polybius thing. It also extended to something called Operation Midnight Climax, where they took um, people in the military, and they were said, okay, tonight you're gonna go to this place, and granted, it's a whorehouse, but this is where we're gonna meet up, and blah blah blah, whatever. No, seriously, and then whatever it is, and then they drug these people. They drugged them, and not only they gave them orders, but also they made them sleep with hookers. So when these people realized that they were hallucinating, having all kinds of different things, going on, and they wanted to report them, some of the you can look this up. You might be laughing, but so then one of the people that were in charge of the operation told him, he's like, "What are you gonna do? You're gonna tell your family back home that you were at a whorehouse? What are you doing at a whorehouse? You have a family." And he's like, "You guys told me to go to a. You guys told." And he says, "You really? You think we would
Wow.
tell you to go to a whorehouse and drink when that's exactly what happened?" So they did this to multiple military branches across the United States. Just and then the creepy thing was that the people that were studying them were behind. They were behind a two-way mirror, just watching these people with hookers and taking notes. And
Oh,
I guess
those
that they had,
dirty bastards.
yeah, and they had given this, they had given these hookers like basically, oh, by the way, in the middle of it, I want you to say this in the middle, and then and see the response. So then they were, yeah. So then they would do certain thing and say certain things, and then just to see the reaction, they were just like writing it. Can you imagine? Being that person in charge, like, hey, I'm here, I'm new here. What are we doing? Oh, you're gonna watch hookers and a guy in a Navy suit, like he's L. Ron Hubbard. Like what? And just like sitting there with a notepad, just writing down stuff. Kind of like how they're like, if you drink pineapple, it's gonna make things taste sweeter. And I'm like, who the hell was the guy with the lab coat running that experiment? Like, oh,
Can
pineapple
I
juice is
be
the
that
key.
guy?
It probably wasn't an experiment. It was just an online rumor, and people ran with it like they always do.
Yeah, they just ran with it. It's
I
like, oh,
mean,
if you drink
is
pineapple
that
juice, it's like, how many do you have to figure that out? Asparagus, not recommended. Um,
Drink
so
semen.
I
It'll
mean,
be fuller longer.
no. So what?
it's not the
So
first time the military's done an experiment and not told us about it.
yeah, I mean, it's just so dark, and it's just one of those things where if you really begin to go down the rabbit trail, you might even lose sleep. I mean, another one that's really dark. Damn, I don't even know if I should say it. I'm just gonna say it. You guys ever heard of adrenochrome?
Yes.
I think so.
Have,
Oh yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so I don't even know how to even talk about it. You guys should look this up. But if you guys look it up on, you guys got to use DuckDuckGo, because if you use Google, nothing will come up. Or it's like adrenochrome is a fictional blah blah blah. So damn, should I go into it?
Blah, blah, blah.
Should I talk about it?
A little. Just the tip.
So okay,
Do it.
jeez, I promise, just the tip of the iceberg. So when so in children before they hit puberty, They believe that if you torture a child and you frighten them to the point where their mind is about to break, you take out the adrenal gland, and if you drink it, you get the best high of your life. And it also, yeah, it also
Gross.
makes you look younger, like it smooths out your skin. There's a lot of benefits. So, yeah, it's gross. So the
Gross.
conspiracy is that a lot of celebrities partake in adrenochrome, and there was hints of it
Mm.
placed in. Yeah, it's dark. So, like, if we go to a Clockwork Orange, there's a bar where they're drinking the special milk, and the special milk is I think they say that it's a adrena milk. They're like coming from like adrenochrome, and it's like, where did you get it? Like, oh, you don't wanna know. So also
Gross.
in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you guys ever seen that?
Yeah.
Great movie.
So Fear and Loathing, somebody, okay, yeah, Laura versus the World. So exactly. So damn, that's a good one too. So in Monsters Inc., the monster's job is to go into a place and then scare the children, right, for energy, right?
Mhm.
So they believe that this movie is basically talking about adrenochrome, because these people rely on the adrenal gland of a scared child to feel youthful, to feel full of energy, and yeah, it's gross.
Gross.
It's dark. Yeah, it's dark. I can't get too much.
God.
But anyway, so in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, there's a scene where I forget the name of the guy. What was the name of the main guy? The guy that wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He
Oh,
was famous.
Oh, Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah. Okay. So Hunter S. Thompson. There's a scene where he gets on the phone and he's about to take a dropper, and he's like, what is that? And he's like, adrenochrome, and he like starts putting it in his tongue, like under his tongue, and then he gets on the phone and he starts talking to the devil, and so, and I think, what did they call it, a Lucy? It's like, oh, we're just gonna, oh, it's from Lucy, like, so again, a reference to a child. So yeah,
That's not what I
it's
remember.
you're ruining the movie for everybody right now.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
and right before
Damn
that
it.
scene, you have to pay attention. But there's a cowboy at the phone bank, and he's talking to somebody, and you can barely hear him, but he's talking to somebody, and he's saying, "Well, I just got here, and two guys have chased this other guy down and chopped his head off right there in the parking lot. How's your mom?" And I'm like, what is this referring to? And then the adrenochrome scene happened.
Yeah.
That
He's getting
movie's
ready to
ruined.
he's getting ready to do. I don't think they got Lucy yet, but they were getting ready to. And then Dr. Gonzo comes in, and he's freaking out. He's like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And he's like, "You take a hit out of this little brown bag. Got a dropper in here in this little brown bag, and you just take 2 drops. That's all you take." He's like, "What is?" He's like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Adrenochrome, man." And he's like, "What does it do?" And he's like, "It makes the best acid feel like ginger beer." And he's like,
He does.
"Okay." Instead of taking
He
2, he
flicks
takes
his
the whole
tongue.
dropper. He just goes, bleh. He takes the whole dropper.
And he flicks his tongue. Remember, he starts flicking his tongue as
Yeah,
he's taking it.
He's going blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And then that's a reference to when you become addicted to adrenochrome and then you haven't had it in a long time. They say that your skin begins to kind of like become scaly. Your nails begin to turn black. Like you need it because now you're addicted to this and your body begins to break down. It very reptile like. Then somebody describes the people that are coming off of it almost very reptilian. I think somebody took the concept of reptilian and then kind of made it literal, like these people are lizard people, when in reality the term lizard people was coming from their appearance. It's like the scales on their face and then the nails turning black, and yeah, and then they
Gross.
were, thirsty all the time, so always like sticking their tongue out until they got, you know, their fix. And what does that say? Oh,
They had
jeez.
and they had a real lust for cockroaches and bugs and stuff.
Yeah,
Gross.
that's what you're doing. You want to hang out underneath a heat lamp. No, it's really dark. So if you guys go on something like eBay and if you guys type in adrenochrome, you can get like a very watered. I don't know if it's still there, but a lot of people were doing that. That they were like just typing it in to see if it comes up, and then it tells you like, oh, adrenochrome only, like $30, but it comes from Mexico, and it's older than normal. It's 15 years old. Like, what does that mean? Like, people are like, this thing's been sitting on the shelf for 15 years. We start putting the puzzles together. Like, is it from a 15-year-old? So it's not as good as if it was a child. So in the black market, on the dark web, there's people that talk about how, there is like a adrenochrome farms, and it's like a lot of kids that disappear, a lot of kids that go missing, and they end up on these type of farms, and then they're harvested, and a lot of them do it off of islands.
Islands?
Yeah, so a lot of these things come from islands. Like if you mention a certain island that's very famous, like that was famous for the same thing. They said there was a farm there, an adrenochrome farm.
I've seen Island. I'm sorry.
Oh, are you okay?
Sorry, I had a sneeze. My bad.
Oh, so, but yeah, exactly that island. So, yeah, it's so dark, and there's also supposedly footage of how they harvest it, and they bring. See, I can't even go into details on how it's harvested, but there's like video footage of like, you want to know where it comes from, and then they kind of play like footage. This is where it comes from, and then they kind of mistreat someone and then harvest them. Yeah, it puts me in a bad mood. Jeez. Oh, you guys hit me with another conspiracy because this is dark.
Okay, that is really dark, but I mean, another one that they kind of kept quiet about. Have you guys heard of the Philadelphia experiments?
Yes.
Yes.
That one I actually just found out about.
Really?
I just learned about it last week,
look at
and I
that.
just went on the deepest rabbit hole for a week straight on this thing. Yeah, like an entire freaking ship disappearing, like how, and they don't talk about that. That's insane.
Of course, we're not going to talk about it.
Well, and then I read that so when this ship disappeared and it finally reappeared, now correct me if I'm wrong on my research, but it said that when it reappeared and they went onto the ship to check on the crew, make sure everything was still in order, there were crew members literally embedded like into the ship.
Yep.
What?
Yeah. Like, and he's gone.
Yep. The ship went. It's almost like the ship went poof. The crew went, oh, what are we doing? And it rematerialized, and they're all embedded, infused in the bulkheads and the sides.
Damn, I'm back.
Yeah, I had literally never heard of this up until last week. Oh, really? Messy Jessie shook her jar on accident. That's why he went on.
Well, oh wow, thanks. Okay. What a douche. No, it's.
He called me a douche earlier too. Why are you calling everyone douches?
Favorite word of the week.
It's a favorite word of the week. No, so it's just things like, it's a douche. You douche. Whatever helps you sleep at night, you douche. No, it's just so many things. And and what's interesting is, so Alex Jones, do you guys know about Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Alex Jones here. InfoWars, Obama, and the black helicopters. So that they're turning the frogs gay. Turns out he was right. They were. So there's a chart that now people are beginning to compose, and it's called the "You Are Here" on the Alex Jones timeline. And basically everything that he talked about throughout the years. Like, do you remember? It was about 10 years ago. He was on some podcast, and he's like, "There's an island out there with pedophiles, and the famous people go there, like Bill Clinton." And he's talking about it, and people are like, "He's finally lost his mind. Like, what are you talking about?" And people dismissed them, and then the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing came up. Ah, damn it, I said it. Hopefully we don't get booted. Isn't that insane that you can actually get an episode censored or get something if by saying that on YouTube? Isn't that crazy to think?
Producer, can we cut that out, or like can we erase people's memories or some shit?
Yeah, can you get me the nebulizer from the Men in Black? Okay, yeah, thanks.
Everybody watching, right here.
Look into the tampon.
Yeah, shut up. Flashlight.
So
hold on. Time out. So Messy Jessie, she made a very important comment that we weren't able to see, and I think it needs to be said. So she says that she might be a reptile.
Oh boy.
But she's not a DeLorean, and she's still waiting on the Big Red Dreams album.
Not with that attitude, you're not. I just got to give them all adrenochrome. So, what a ridiculous comment.
I love her
also,
so much. Sorry.
Also, going back to mind control, there was also a conspiracy out there that 5G network was like a form of mind control, that they can put small messages and small waves into 5G. Yeah, and that was when it was barely coming up.
Yeah,
What?
and everybody that got the vaccine was now had little like nanobots in their skin, and at any time when we switched over from LTE to 5G, that was going to turn on, and we're going to have another, what was it, Havana syndrome type deal.
Yep. And for those of you guys that don't know what Havana syndrome is, who's going to explain it? Do you know this one, or you want me to tell it?
I don't even know what that is. Go.
Okay, which one of us?
You.
Okay, so in Havana, Cuba, tengo una cosa. Fidel Castro nunca me va a volver a decir lo que tengo que hacer en mi vida. So in Havana, I can't repeat what I said in English. So in Havana, there was all these people that were very, very sick. So they were getting very sick, and they had like nausea. Some of them had insomnia. Other people were running around, just rolling on the floor, saying that this high-pitched, thing was just ear piercing. And people are like, "These people, what is going on?" And they're kind of testing, the water supply. Like, is it in the water? Is it in the food? And then some people started with high frequency meters, and they started picking up small high pitched signals that were being aimed at a specific location in Havana. And then it later came out that they had sonic weapons, that they weren't in production yet. They haven't been implemented on the battlefield yet. They could possibly use it for riot control and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as it got out in the media, it stopped overnight. Boom. And like everybody was fine. Everybody was kind of like, the sound stopped. We feel better. And then they called it Havana syndrome. Like, oh, if you're in Havana, and it was because these people were being experimented on, with these sonic weapons that a lot of people found to be ridiculous. That's the dumbest thing, until later it was proven that these weapons exist. And yeah, they were testing it on they were testing it on the Cubans. So this magazine called Scientific America released their concerns about 5G and about these type of networks. And the article, you guys can look it up. Just Google it. It's called Mind Control via Cell Phone. So they were using the 5G network and saying they can actually control you through these waves. And they were talking about how they were doing experiments in 5G, whatever the hell you want to call that, frequency, wave, whatever the hell it is. And they wanted to use it for in case there was a state of emergency and people were panicking. They say if we release these waves via the towers, we can calm people down and they don't panic. Just calm down. It's fine. Everybody just walk into your vehicles and then just leave in an orderly fashion. And they're saying if we can introduce these signals through the 5G network, but it's not in production yet. They said because a lot of people are having second thoughts if this is ethical, because it's actually, you're controlling people. And then what was it? 5 years later, 5G, it's like 5G network is coming. Alex Jones was like, don't let the 5G network, they're blah, blah, blah. And then finally Scientific America is like, yeah, you can actually do that. Like we can actually control mice and rabbits, make them do certain things by utilizing something like a 5G frequency and then, shift their emotions, and then now it's everywhere. So if sometimes you're sitting there and you're feeling like you're not yourself, if you're feeling kind of weird and everybody around you is also feeling weird, maybe it's because you have 5G in your house. You need to get yourself the Magneto helmet.
Okay.
That's why sometimes I leave my phone in another room and go outside and do something else, because it's not always getting 5G radiation. Feel better.
So here's something that's here's something that's interesting. They had the same issue happening in place in Switzerland, where a lot of people were getting sick. A lot of people were very depressed, and I believe it was in the beans. Everyone eating beans, weapons of beans, and two interesting conspiracy theories. Beans. Yeah.
What?
I don't know. It looks like somebody is
I don't know.
being mind controlled
No,
by
it's like a cryptid message.
Yeah, by the 5G network.
Jesse, of course it is.
So they had these people and they were very sick. A lot of them were suicidal, and it was a whole region. And the only people who were not affected was the people that didn't have electricity. They were like living in their houses, like not far away, but like far enough to where it's like, it's interesting. Everybody in this area that has electricity is feeling very depressed and suicidal. But the country bumpkins that can't even afford electricity, much less the internet, they're fine. They're happy. They're smiling. They're just out there,
More of a reason to go off the grid.
Yeah, to go off grid.
Go on.
Well, yeah, because everything in the cities throws off your natural circadian rhythm, which is go to sleep when it gets dark, wake up when sunlight, do your thing, and then
go to work.
Eat your 3 square meals a day, do your regular stuff, and then go to bed at night. And you have an actual rhythm, and you feel better.
I eat 5 meals a day.
No, I don't.
With the light pollution and cars going past your house every day, everybody's doing something 24 hours a day. How the hell are you supposed to get any rest?
Yeah, and it's that also.
Birdie,
yeah, a lot of it is. Well, and that's the thing is they did an experiment in the 1960s. You guys ever heard the term the rat race?
Yeah.
Like, back in the rat race. That actually comes from an experiment they did in the 1950s or 60s with rats, where they basically overpopulated them and then made them race to not the people think that like, they're gonna race to get a reward, a piece of cheese. No, they're gonna race so that they don't get shocked. Last rat in gets electrocuted. Not enough to kill him, but enough to like severely injure it. And then the next day, they do it over and over and over until finally they realized that the rats that were shocked the most, by the end of it, became the most aggressive and most tenacious, to the point when they were willing to attack other rats just to get to the end, so they weren't shocked. So they believe that by overpopulating these rats and then forcing them, like causing them stress, and then they cause them stress in other ways too. They put small doses of caffeine in their water to make them addicted. They basically gave them schedules and routines. Whenever an alarm would sound, these rats would immediately kick in and they started running towards, to get to the end so they wouldn't be hurt.
Yep.
So then they started doing the same thing with prisoners. They started doing the same thing with prisoners in Russia, well, the USSR at the time, doing the same thing. And then they started saying, if we implement this into society, we can make a more productive society. So then when they introduced the public school system, and put it in the actual way that it's designed now, like as soon as this bell rings, you better get to your class or not, there's going to be consequences. So it caused the kids stress. So that's why I see a lot of kids running, a lot of kids doing all these things just to get to class, because in the end, they were trying to make factory workers. As soon as the clock's in, boom, you better run, you better not be late. And they had them in a routine, 8 hours of school. We're gonna do 8 hours because that's a work week, right? A work day. And then they're gonna give them homework, because even though you're home, we want you guys to stress and think about this place when you're at home. So we're going to give you homework. Just like when you're home after a long days of work, you're like, damn, I got to go back to that damn. The best thing about the end of the day is that it gets to start all over again the next day. So it was a schematic. Yeah, so it was a schematic that they had, and a whole experiment that they were doing on the prisoners, and then they moved it onto the children. And then other countries were looking at this, are like, damn, these people are making very productive factory workers. So let's start doing it to our kids here, just so that we can have factory workers, because we need more factories running. So then they implement the system, and that's the public school system that we have now.
That's depressing.
Yeah. That is very interesting. Wow.
It's the machine. It's the machine.
Totally killed my mood.
Yep. Welcome to the machine.
Welcome to the machine. Just like all right. I think we have room for maybe 2 more. Really quick. I just want to talk about the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz.
Either buckle up or cover your ears, because this is dark.
Buckle the fuck up.
Yes. So there's so much behind it that I don't even know which conspiracy to go to. One of the things that I don't even. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the hanging midget, the munchkin in the background.
Yeah. The actor that hanged himself on set.
Yeah, and it was because they were. One of the stories was that these people were not citizens, so they were mistreated. They were like either circus freaks or they were from another country, so they made them work close to 22 hours a day. They were exhausted. They were not allowed to leave. They were barely a lot of them, people believe that they had makeup on, like, oh, look at these munchkins. And a lot of that was malnourishment and no sleep. It's like, no, that wasn't makeup. That's just how they look, because of one of them finally couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, yeah. Right? And they partied hard.
Yep. They partied very hard.
They did.
They kept them alive with caffeine and cocaine. Finally, one of them couldn't take it anymore, hung himself. And then many, many years later, they were saying, like, it was a bird. Like, what are you talking about? And they play it and and it's a bird. You're like, wow, look at that. It's a bird. Unless you own a VHS copy and you look at it and it's like, those are clearly little shoes hanging there.
It is not. There's no way it's a bird.
And
then all of the scene where I think it was snowing or something, but it's not actual snow. I think they said
asbestos.
It was asbestos. That was raining down on her. Let's just rain down cancer on this poor little 16-year-old actress. Wasn't she even
Judy Garland?
How old was she?
Oh yeah, poor Judy. She was so mistreated.
So much so that that not only was she abused by the director, she was abused by her co-star, she was abused by the Munchkin, the Lollipop Guild. These people were, and they told stories that the directors of the film encouraged them to sexually assault her for their amusement, and they would just watch as they would grope her. Um, um, uh, okay, first of all, no, they're not. So 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 that they would grope her, and then they would basically, yeah, and they would laugh, like they would all just like abuse her, like look up her skirt, or grab. This is serious, guys, and they would abuse her, and
People,
then
that is serious.
and and then the directors would just sit there and laugh. Like, aha, look at that poor girl. And then she was, not allowed to sleep. She was not allowed to eat. They would feed her coffee grounds, and cigarettes, coffee ground and cigarettes, and her mom, they told her, like, look, she's going to be a big star, but you got to make sure this is what she consumes. So, and the mom was,
coffee. It was amphetamines.
yeah. So, well, I mean, that came from her later. The mom was saying that it was cigarettes and caffeine. She was saying that they gave her pills, they made her smoke things, they gave her injections, experimental things, they got from, yeah. So all kinds of concoctions that they gave that poor girl. And a lot of it was they were trying to break her because they said she was going to be, super famous. And they said, if she belongs to Hollywood, she can just crank out films over and over, like without, ever having to take a break. So they were trying to basically produce, like, not even an actress. She was just a thing. We need another movie, get that thing, let her out of the closet.
Yep. They gave her the Marilyn Monroe treatment.
Yeah.
Oh, sad.
Yeah. And what's sad about Marilyn Monroe is that she supposedly was, I don't believe it, she's a woman. Supposedly she was very intelligent.
Do you want to get slapped right now?
She was supposedly very intelligent. Okay, let's not succumb to violence.
Oh, well, you're gonna succumb to violence.
So, so with they made her play like she was dumb, and they were saying, like, well, we don't like smart people because smart people cannot be controlled. So they made her basically act stupid in public with other people, with the people she was involved with. They made her act all ditzy, and supposedly her family members saying that she was very depressed. And they even encouraged her to pretend like she didn't know how to read, Oh,
yeah, I remember hearing about this, and I remember hearing about this. And the only thing,
IQ than Einstein. Her IQ is higher than Einstein's.
The only thing I could think of at the end of this episode that I was listening to about her was find that diary. She kept everything in that diary, and it disappeared.
Yeah, and geez, and I think that she wanted to give a interview, about the real. I think they were going to do a documentary on the real Marilyn, and then she died. Isn't that insane? Like before she.
Yep.
So yeah, and it's just so damn sad. Anyway, another conspiracy, Wizard of Oz. It's lighter, than what I just hit you guys with about the concept behind it. So the Wizard of Oz was several books. Yeah, because we got to wrap up. Damn, we're already over time. It was several books. A lot of them were short stories, and the whole concept behind it was what's happening to our country. So you have, for example, the yellow brick road, which is supposed to represent the gold standard, right? The gold standard. Here you have this innocent girl, and she doesn't know where to go. Where are we going? You got to follow the yellow brick road. Like, you got to follow the gold standard. That's the only way. And she meets these characters along the way. For example, you have the Tin Man, which didn't have a heart, right? He was heartless. No. And so a Tin Man didn't have a heart, and that was supposed to represent the heartless corporation that was coming. So the heartless Tin Man was supposed to be the corporation, right? And then you had the Scarecrow, which was supposed to be the farmer, and he was brainless. He didn't have a brain because the farmer was considered stupid. Right? So yeah, you have the heartless, the brainless, and then you have the lion. So the lion has always been seen as it's supposed to be representative of government. And the government, who was supposed to keep all these things balanced in this country, didn't want to do it because he was cowardly. So you had the cowardly lion not fulfilling his duties. You know, he's not. Yeah. So then you have the person that's supposed to be pulling all these strings and everybody's afraid of and everybody admires. You have the Wizard of Oz. And he's like, yeah, this person is so big and he runs everything and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, when they look behind the curtain, it was a little man. It was all a big, facade. Or if you're reading this, a big facade. You guys used to think that I was a moron. Turns out it was just a big facade. Anyways, yeah, a big conspiracy. So damn, I can go for hours on this topic, but we got to close up because we're over time. So, anyways, guys, what a great episode. I like this kind of stuff. I wish I would have been able to get more Alex Jones in there. Like you say, the Wizard of Oz. Should we do a part 2? Like talk about more about Bohemian Grove and
we can always do part 2, I think.
Yeah, we could do a part 2 and talk about the founding fathers. Yeah, we might even be able to do like a Trump impression. Like, I'm not gonna do it this time. I'm just gonna leave it alone. Yeah, let's leave it alone. The greatest country. Anyway, wow. So that's it, guys. So you guys can buy merch, at T Public, NRS, I think it's the thing. I don't know. We'll probably put a link in the description. I probably won't. Go buy a shirt. Go buy a mug. Go buy a pillow. Buy a sticker. Put a sticker on a sticker. If you guys know somebody that is thinking about like maybe getting surgery to get puffy nipples, send them the show. Just send them the show. Do them a favor. Do their family a favor. Allow them to not go through with it. So, yeah, like and subscribe, and that's it. And remember, guys, to always look both ways, especially when you find yourselves on Nightmare Road.
Okay,
bye, everybody.
Bye.